Welcome to the Mental Health and You podcast. This podcast brings you information and advice from across the Norfolk and Suffolk NHS Foundation Trust, with a range of teams, services and those who use them sharing their experiences and wisdom with us every fortnight.
Hi everyone, welcome to another Participate podcast. Thanks for listening in. And for this podcast, we're going to be speaking about mental health and confidence. So I guess just to start with, I'm going to put it out there, but what does confidence mean to you when you think about that word?
I think for me, personally, confidence means being able to walk into a room and just be like, yeah, actually, I'm me and I'm fantastic.
I love that. And I think I definitely agree. When I think of confidence, I think of, just trying to feel good about myself, I guess, not compare myself to other people, which I think is something that I know that I have done before. But just to feel okay as who I am and to really celebrate those things. And we've had in the chat as well to feel comfortable in your own skin and to embrace the things that make us unique. Yeah, I love that. I think growing up, I spent so long almost trying to hide those things that made me unique because I didn't want any attention on me and I didn't want to stand out. But I absolutely think you're right, embracing those things that make us unique and really celebrating those. And also in the chat, we've got, to me, it means to just be myself and not to worry about what others think. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. And I actually really relate to that because actually, like, even though I'm sort of an adult, young adult, it's only been about a year this week actually since I've really got the knack of being able to do that and just like walk into a room and be like, actually, I'm okay. If people don't like the things, and that's what I really relate to about you saying about like things that make you unique. It's literally a case of like, now I kind of look at it and just think, if people don't like the things that make me unique or they appear maybe socially inappropriate or scary, unknown, that's their problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got in the chat as well to be happy with your skill set and abilities, for sure. And I think if I could go back, like to when I was in school, and the one thing I change is exactly what you've all just said, is to really celebrate those things that made me different and to not worry about maybe not fitting in and things like that. But when we're looking at confidence and mental health, how do you think that different mental health difficulties or symptoms or challenges, how do you feel like they can affect your confidence?
Yeah, kind of. I think anxiety really can, because you and self-comparison is probably the worst one, because you see people and you think, oh, for goodness sake, am I enough? Even when you know you are, and that can really quite badly mess you up.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Just feeling like you're not good enough can really have that effect, can't it? And I think you're right with anxiety or things like low mood and things like that, that can really impact confidence. And I think for me, when I was in school and having a diagnosis around obsessive compulsive disorder, that really impacted my confidence because I was so worried that people were going to notice the things I was doing because of the OCD that was there. But now I think like there are so many strengths to having, OCD as well, and so many things to celebrate, although it can be really difficult. But trying to look at the positives, that almost now gives me self-esteem that I didn't used to have, if that makes sense.
I quite agree.
And in the chat, we've got depression makes people have a negative opinion of themselves, and social anxiety makes you worry about what people think of you. Absolutely. And those two things together, they're hard enough on their own, but when those two things combine, it really can affect the way you see yourself, can't it? And the confidence you can have around those things.
Yeah, I was gonna say like a weird one. Obviously, like anxiety's affected my confidence in the past, but also like strange one. After having psychosis in the past, being confident in what I'm saying and like it sounds a bit strange, but knowing that what I'm saying is actually reflecting the reality around me. Like once I got better, it was like I don't trust like what I'm seeing in the world, so I didn't want to like say anything because I wasn't sure if I don't know if I was still like delusional or something, and it kind of made me withdraw quite a lot, and I didn't trust people either to be around me either, so it was kind of like yeah, I spent a lot of time like in my house trying to like guess whether like what I'm seeing is and what I'm hearing is real.
Sure, I think that's a really good point that you've made there, and I'm sure really relatable. And I never thought about it in that way before, but you're right. Like I think about times when I wasn't really too sure, when I could tell the difference between reality of what was actually happening or what I thought was happening, but turned out later it wasn't, if that makes sense. When I started to like realize that there was a bit of a difference there, you're right. I felt that I did withdraw because I felt like I had to mask myself so much around other people, and that in itself was really exhausting, and that really knocked my confidence.
You really do feel the urge to mask, and I think mask isn't really a term I've used in the past because I've tended to associate that term with like diagnoses that I don't have. But yeah, actually looking at it, I do realise sometimes that I'm masking. Now, over the last year, I've kind of realised that I do mask in front of people who I think are quote unquote better. Like this one trait I've noticed, like when I'm trying to show off to someone, I'll do this really awkward, giggly laugh. And it's like I've noticed over the last year or so, that is not my real laugh. It's like I don't know what I'm doing in this situation, so I'm just gonna laugh and pretend I do.
It was once I got better, it was harder, like because obviously I'd been like confident in what I was saying was like, I mean to the point where like I'd have like a billion people telling me that I'm insane, and I'm like confident that I wasn't, and also in mania, like in mania having like mad confidence, like that you're so great and like you're invincible and you're on top of the world and everyone's telling you shouldn't be and you feel like they're all stupid, and then you come down and it's like realizing that your confidence was wrong, and then it makes it hard for you to be confident feeling good again in case because it wasn't right last time. I don't know.
That's a really interesting point, actually, because we were looking at it from how mental health might feel like it decreases your confidence. But you're right, with things like mania, it could also feel like you have got that increased confidence. So looking at it from both sides, yeah, that's a really good point. I think for me, with confidence, and I don't know if anyone else has experienced this, but there are some things that I remember, like that have been said to me. They might have only been said to me once, but they stick with me and really affect my confidence. So I can remember like a few years ago, and it's something that I feel like quite I used to feel quite sensitive about anyway, because with ADHD I was really aware that sometimes I can speak a lot and not everything, it makes sense to me, but it might not necessarily make sense when I'm saying it out loud. And I remember someone saying to me once, "Oh, you talk too much." And it was just a one-off comment, but that has, like, I think about it all the time now, like years later. When I'm in meetings, I'll think, "Oh, am I saying enough, or am I talking too much, or am I a really boring person, or like do people get bored of me hearing what I've got to say?" Or and it's just little, like one phrase like that has, and that person never probably thought even really much about it, but it just sticks with me every day still, and it really knocks my confidence. And it is strange, like, well, it's not strange, but that one sentence has really had an impact on me. And I don't know if that's because of something I was sensitive about anyway, or because I was aware of, or because the ADHD diagnosis was more recent, so still trying to come to terms with that. But in the chat we've got, I can agree with that. Like, I remember something that a person said to me years ago, and I still remember it because of it, how much it affected me. And we've got someone else agreeing in the chat as well. But yeah, it is one thing like that can really affect your confidence, and it doesn't matter how many times after that, you know, people will say, oh, that was, you know, interesting, or that was really good to hear, or I can relate to that. That one negative kind of takes over all of those other positives, and I think that can become really hard to deal with.
I can totally agree with you, Sophie. I'm a really sensitive person. It doesn't take much for somebody to say a little comment that I think they don't mean it to be a personal comment, but it really sticks with me. Especially in my workplace, people always say to me, you know, you're going too slow, you don't talk enough. One of my managers, shortly after I started the job, said to me, oh, you were really outgoing in your interview or something, and now you're not. And I'm thinking, well, you know, that was a job interview. You know, it's not what I'm like in real life. In a job interview, you have to kind of, you know, pretend a bit. And then, but anyway, it's really little comments like that can really set me off. I mean, I can be happy 1 minute and then somebody goes and makes a petty little comment, and they might mean it to be like, you know, not personal, but to me it's like, well, you've really upset me, and nobody really seems to notice. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say, really.
Yeah, thank you. That's really helpful. I can really relate to that. And I think, like, I notice it more when I'm doing something like I'm really passionate about. So if I'm talking like about work, for instance, and it's something I really want to do well at, it seems to like impact me a lot more, if that makes sense. Like in my personal life, I might be able to, I wouldn't say I'd be able to shrug it off, but I think about it a lot more when I'm in a situation that you know, for something that I'm really passionate and I really care a lot about. And I've never really thought about it in that way before, in terms of how one thing like that can really kind of stay with you.
Yeah, it's weird that you said about the ADHD thing, because like I got diagnosed at 15, and like I actually at first, like I ended up using it to build confidence. So like, because I was really I had no confidence because of my autism. But when I got older, I started using my ADHD to socialize a lot, and I was really happy with it, and I had no problem with having it. In fact, I liked having it until last year, when an ex of mine, we were laying in bed at night, and he just goes, you talk so much and you ramble about the same thing so much that it's you're annoying. And since that, like after years of being confident about having ADHD, all of a sudden it's like it's crumbled. And I actually think every single day about like whether I'm talking too much, whether I'm annoying, whether I'm this. Like when I'm in our groups, I'm saying like, are you talking too much? Are you rambling? And I sit there and overthink how much I'm talking. And like I can't stop thinking about it. And it's so dumb, because for years I had no problem. I didn't even realize I was doing it.
I'm going to come in with a few points, actually. Sorry. So I am about to ramble. Firstly, to both people who have made comments about ADHD and talking too much. In response to the first person's point, it kind of links back to being yourself, because I'm not sure I even knew you had ADHD, because to me, you're just you. In response to the person who just made a point, it's the person who made that comment, it's the person who said that about you, that you talk too much and you're annoying. It's their loss. You don't talk too much. You're very funny and you're brilliant. So don't listen to people like that. And for me, I also really relate to the point that the first person said about point that was raised earlier about points about petty comments and how it affects you more when you're talking about something that you care about. because recently I've had comments, because anybody who knows me will know that I am absolutely passionate about music. Music is my life. I want a career in music. I listen to music all the time. I'm not a big fan of watching TV. I find it overwhelming. I find it understimulating, overwhelming sometimes, and not very good for my mental health. I occasionally, I'll do it occasionally with family, but as a general rule, I find it's really bad for me just to like sit down without the direct stimulation of either being with someone I love or trust or listening to music. And I've had to field quite a lot of comments lately about the fact that I have chosen music as my way of connecting with the world over TV, or comments over the fact I don't like to watch TV. And then a couple of weeks ago, the little bit of TV I do watch was criticised. I was told I was boring again. And I was then told I get worse. And even though those comments, I know the person who made them would not have said them maliciously, they were meant as affectionate jokes, that was a real kick in the guts. And I literally 2 hours later was on the settee, raining tears and listening to music. What a surprise. But it's just little things like that, when you know what you want and you've spent you've just got to that stage where you're okay with the fact that you don't want to be in it. Because I used to have this real issue where I would do things and get upset if people did things without me because I didn't want to be the odd one out. It's literally only the last year that I've come to terms with that. And it's took me, I've worked my backside off to stick to it. And then for that to be criticised in one comment, even if it's meant affectionately, and that person doesn't even know that they're criticising what I've built up over the last year. And it's like, oh, goodness sake. It really knocks you, because then you go, what's wrong with me? Why don't I want to be normal first?
So yeah, I totally sympathise with the last person's point. That sounds totally awful. I can relate to that, because I had a boyfriend actually who criticised one of my favourite things, and they were like, oh, you shouldn't like this. And it's like, well, why can't I like this? You like 1920s music. Yeah. I think I'm a bit more sophisticated than you. And he was really into musicals and opera, and all I was into really was Harry Potter. And he was like, you need to expand your horizons. And I'm like, well, sorry, mate, but the only things I like are Harry Potter and punk rock music, mainly Green Day and Sum 41 and Foo Fighters. What else do you like? Nothing else. Sorry, I'm not like you. But he was really quite nasty about it. Yeah. And it was like, you know, we're not all the same, and you know, I like what I like, and it was really hard for me to actually like those things in the first place. It took me a lot of years, and you coming over and saying to me, you shouldn't like this. I mean, sorry, but who are you to tell me that? It's like, come on, and he was saying to me, well, we split up ages ago, but he was saying before we split up, maybe you should consider getting yourself an autism diagnosis, because you're showing signs of autism. And I'm saying, well, sorry, I know you've got autism, but I don't think I have. So, and I don't know how I do that anyway, to be honest. So, yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Of him, not of you.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah. And then he wanted me to meet his girlfriend, and I was like, no, I'm not going to meet your girlfriend.
That's insane.
Yeah. I'm split up now.
I loved your response. I was like, sorry, mate.
Yeah.
Best way.
So pretty insane, I'm not gonna lie, like to meet his girlfriend after camera.
Yeah, it's like, oh, do you want to do you want to come over for coffee and you can meet my girlfriend? I'm like, well, not really. I don't really want to meet your girlfriend, mate.
She's unfortunate by the sounds of it. Sorry.
Yeah. But yeah, just I thought that was a bit rich, really. Him saying to me, get an autism diagnosis. I'm like, well, I don't think I've got autism, so why should I?
But it highlights, doesn't it? I think from the things that we've just been discussing, how, people might not mean anything by these comments or might not mean them maliciously, but they can still really have an impact on your confidence. And I think it's only now that I've got like a good support network that I can actually see some of the strengths in those things. So before, where I was like, oh no, do I talk too much?
Yeah.
Like my friends will be like, they know that I get so curious and I ask so many questions, and they're like, well, at least it's not boring when you're around because we've always got something to talk about. And it's just,
I'm exactly the same. My friends and I as I said, this group is the biggest literal group of friends I've ever had, and they don't. My friends, almost none of my friends even question anything. Yeah, I can literally walk in and start have kiss on in front of everybody, and it just nobody even would notice. And then you just hear one comment, and it's like even yesterday, I said I liked something, and somebody went. The comment in response to that was, I made a sort of an enthusiastic comment about something because it was contained something that I relate to, that I'm quite interested and passionate about. And the response I got back was, not in a malicious way, but the response I got was, that's not even for your age. I was like, oh no, what is wrong with me? And that then opened up the whole can of worms about, because I've got disabilities as well, and I know that some disabilities can cause you to need to act younger than you are, and I was like, oh, flip. It just opens up a whole can of doubt.
yeah, it does, doesn't it? And I think it's when you start to find, like, when you have that support network in place and you start to be able to try and find those strengths and celebrate those unique things about you, which we mentioned earlier in the chat, that can really help to improve that confidence and self-esteem. Has anyone found anything else which has really helped to like improve their confidence, or to look at like celebrating their strengths and things like that? Has anything like been useful?
Dancing. Quite simply, dancing.
Yeah, like getting into like writing music, and also like I've got a neighbor and we do a lot of music together. Like we do covers, we write songs, we share the songs that we've written with each other, and like encourage each other with them. And like it's like made it easier when I then went to band practice and stuff, and that was helpful as well. Like I got more confident in in like songwriting and stuff and playing guitar and stuff because of him, because of my neighbor who taught me a lot and like told me I'm like actually good at it for the first time. So it was like, yeah, doing music, especially with like good people, is like, it's great because now I can perform my songs to people and I'm not as, still not confident, but I'm not as self-conscious anymore. So that was helpful.
Writing as well, and I've actually, because I write a lot of songs and poetry, and I've actually just realised that last week, or like 3 days ago, I wrote a poem that actually pretty much describes my picture of confidence. It's like, it's about like having this vision of this piece of your personality that's like exactly what I was talking about earlier, the person that walks in with the head held high and the hand on the hip, and it's just like, heck yes.
I make a list of 5 things I'm grateful for. I do it mentally, and I haven't really done it for a while. But sometimes I can go higher, but I just find that keeps me grounded, really. And also, I don't do it anymore, but I used to write fan fiction when I was a lot younger, and that really helped as well, just getting in the minds of different fantasy characters and just immersing myself in a different world. And reading helps as well, actually, just normal reading. Yeah, the fan fiction doesn't exist anymore because I got rid of it because it was really embarrassing.
It's nice though when you have that passion for something, isn't it? And it kind of takes you away. And I agree with the gratitude thing. I do like the gratitude thing. And I think alongside that, sometimes we just need to remind ourselves of the things that we have like achieved, because if you're like me, I focus on all of the things that I can't do, and I forget that actually, it takes a lot to be able to go through when your confidence is knocked and come out of the other side. And so for me, it's just trying to celebrate the things that I have done and just not focusing on the things that I haven't, or that I haven't quite managed to yet. Does anyone want to come in with any last points before we wrap this up?
Yeah, I think just remember that, and that's the kind of the message of the poem that I wrote a bit, actually. Just remember that we all have a great inside us, and if you feel like you having a bad day or you're rubbish or whatever, that's what gets you out of bed in the morning and what gets you through. Listen to that great, listen to your gut, because your gut is what will tell you, your heart and your gut is what will tell you. And if it doesn't feel right, it's not right for you. So unless it's going to save your life in some way, nobody in their right mind is going to hate you for walking away or putting your headset in or whatever. And if they do, well, it's their problem.
I think like a lot of the time people are inclined to find the worst qualities and focus on them, and it takes away from the confidence they would have about the good things about them. And like I think a lot of the time it's good to remember that most people don't notice all of those bad things as much as we do ourselves. So like, yeah, people are probably noticing the good things in you more than you notice in yourself. So yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to say every day is a gift. It sounds really cringy, but every day is a gift, and we need to kind of unwrap it and seize the day, carpe diem, and all that. And yeah, and just try and be the best in ourselves, but don't beat ourselves up if we're not like that. I mean, it's okay to have off days. I mean, all the greatest people have had off days, all the celebrities and all that. Even like, David Attenborough has off days probably, when he doesn't see his antelope or whatever. Just
I love that.
That got
Yeah.
me.
So even greats like David Attenborough have off days, and we just have to be grateful that we're here and we're going to try and do the best we can. Who cares about anybody else? Just get on with our lives and don't waste energy on trying to make people happy. Just make yourself happy, and you can go to bed thinking, I've made people happy. No, sorry, I haven't made people happy and I don't care. I know that sounds really selfish, but at least I've made myself happy. And that's all that matters, because the person that we actually spend the most time with is ourselves. And we need to know that that's, we're worth it. To use the Garnier expression. We're worth it, and
Yes.
yeah, I've run out of steam. Sorry.
I think the one, and I know this is just the last point, I guess. The one question I have started asking myself is, would I want this person to be listening if I got on Kiss? And if I do, then their opinion matters. If I wouldn't, then no, their opinion really doesn't matter. I just need to do me, regardless of the fact that that person is there.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for listening in to our short podcast on mental health and confidence. And we hope to see you at the next one.
Thanks for listening. Please subscribe to make sure you don't miss a future episode. Let us know what you thought of this episode by reaching out on social media. If you haven't already, listen back to previous episodes to hear some of the best mental health advice for you.